Hey, what is up, mortals? Welcome to Season 1 Part 2. Just wanted to greet you guys by just saying sit back and relax, you're in for a treat, and so we begin. As Aizawa ran into the factory battlefield, he quickly broke off from the pack of students and disappeared into the shadows. This is where Aizawa felt at home. After turning the corner in a back alley, Aizawa ran into a one-pointer robot. Aizawa wrapped the robot's arms up in his capture cloth. The robot started to reverse to escape from the young man. Aizawa struggled to keep the robot from escaping. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw a small switch on the robot's neck. Knowing there had to be a reason for this, Aizawa leaped toward the robot. Using his impressive agility, Aizawa ran up the wall and landed on the robot's back. He then quickly hit the switch, and the robot went limp. I thought so. Aizawa figured that the UA staff would have to give the applicants a way to deactivate the robots. After all, many of the applicants would not have quirks suited for combat. With this information, Aizawa took off once again. As he ran through the factory, he managed to take out several one-pointer, a few two-pointers, and even three-pointers, as he was looking for another robot to take out when he heard a loud scream. Oh crap, this thing is way tougher than I thought. Aizawa saw a blonde boy with a lightning bolt in his hair. The boy was trying to take down a three-point robot with an electric quirk. From what Aizawa could see, the electric boy was not having any luck taking down the robot. Aizawa thought it must have insulation to block such electric displays. The robot charged toward the electric blonde. Seeing this, Aizawa wrapped his capture weapon around an overhead pipeline. He used this to swing onto the top of the robot and flip the switch on the robot's head. Oh crap, that was close. Thank you so much. You saved my life. You're welcome. Try and be more aware of your opponents, and take this more seriously. With that, Aizawa charged off to find more robots. He found more robots to destroy and helped a few more people out. According to Aizawa's meticulous calculations, he had 30 villain points. Not the greatest score ever, but good considering his quirk was not a combat type. Aizawa also figured that he and the other applicants were being graded on other factors that they were not aware of. If that was the case, then he figured he was in good shape to pass the test. As Aizawa went looking for more robots, the ground began to rumble. In the area close to Aizawa, the huge zero-point robot emerged from the ground. It destroyed buildings and sent the test takers running for their lives. Aizawa figured that it would be completely irrational for him to go after that robot. After all, it had no point value, and his quirk would be of no use against it. As these thoughts flowed through Aizawa's head, he heard a voice from the direction of the robot. Damn my ankle. A short girl with purple hair was lying on the ground, her ankle at an unnatural angle. Aizawa figured she twisted it when the robot emerged. From the look of it, there was no way for her to escape before the robot reached her. At that moment, Aizawa could hear the voice of his green-haired friend telling him to save the girl, because a hero never leaves anyone behind. Very much against his own rationale, Aizawa charged toward the girl. He wrapped her in his binding cloth and threw her over his shoulder. He then proceeded to run at top speed away from the robot. The purple-haired girl screamed at Aizawa, "What do you think you're doing? This is entrapment." Aizawa managed to get clear of the robot's path. He then heard Present Mike announce that the test was over. The purple-haired girl then said, "Can you put me down and untie me?" After Aizawa untied her and laid her on the ground, the girl then said deadpan, "Thank you for that. You're welcome." Just then a sweet little old lady in a doctor's uniform entered the area. Aizawa knew that this was the youthful hero recovery girl. He knew this because Midoriya spent the break during one of their weekend training sessions going on about her abilities at length. Recovery girl then said, "You all did exceptionally good. I am proud of each and every one of you. You are all winners in my book." She then looked over at the purple-haired girl, whose name was Kyoka Gyro. Recovery girl then walked over to Gyro and laid a big grandma kiss on her. Gyro's horribly twisted ankle then righted itself. She was then able to stand. Gyro thanked Recovery girl for fixing her ankle. She then turned to Aizawa and thanked him again for helping her escape to zero-pointer. Aizawa looked at the purple-haired girl and said, "You're welcome." He then thought to himself that Midoriya may be a plain-looking guy, but his personality certainly affects a person. With that, the UA entrance exam ended. Several days passed after the exam. In the evening, Aizawa received a letter with a disc in it. Aizawa laid the disc on his desk and an image of a small white bear-like creature appeared. The creature said, "Hello there, it is everyone's favorite rat, dog, bear creature Principal Nezu. I am proud to say that you, Shouta Aizawa, have passed the UA entrance exam. You received 30 villain points. Normally that would not be enough for you to pass, but there were other considerations. We were also judging you on your behavior during the test. If an applicant acted as a hero then he was rewarded for it with rescue points. With that in mind, you Aizawa received 40 rescue points. We were quite impressed by this source considering that your quirk was not a combat type. We are proud to welcome you, Shouta Aizawa, to the Hero Academia. Aizawa was not surprised by the information of rescue points. He figured that there was another dimension to the testing. Otherwise, you would just have gotten the best fighters, and there was more to being a hero than just fighting. Aizawa took notice of the leaderboard of test scores. In the first place slot were two familiar names. The first name was Katsuki Bakugo. This was no surprise to Aizawa. While he never cared for Bakugo's personality, he knew the guy was powerful and talented. What surprised Aizawa was the name that tied Bakugo. The other name was Izuku Midoriya, the name of his friend. Aizawa was stunned by this piece of information. He knew that Midoriya was a very capable fighter for his age. Aizawa had seen to that. But it was inconceivable to Aizawa that Midoriya not only passed but tied with Bakugo for first place. Since he had completed the entrance exam, Aizawa had feared that his friend had failed the exam. Aizawa had barely passed, and he had a quirk and was far more intelligent than Midoriya. Aizawa wondered just what kind of training All Might had put his green-haired friend through. While this information was shocking to Aizawa, he doubted that Yue would hand out scores based on sympathy. He would have to speak with Midoriya very soon about all of this. The next day Aizawa went to Midoriya's house. His plan was to first commend his friend for scoring so well on the exam, and then to get the truth behind that high score. Aizawa knocked on the door to Midoriya's apartment. The door was answered by Inko Midoriya. "Oh, hello Aizawa. I haven't seen you for a while." Aizawa almost smiled at the sight of the kindly Inko Midoriya. Since he became friends with Izuku, it was not an uncommon occurrence for him to spend weekends at the Midoriya residence. Inko was grateful that Aizawa was looking out for Izuku when she could not. "How are you doing, Mrs. Midoriya? Is Izuku here?" Inko smiled at that comment. She responded, "He is. Do you want to come in while I get him?" "No, Mrs. Midoriya. Could you ask him if he can come out for a while? I wanted to congratulate him and take him to lunch to celebrate." "Oh, that sounds nice. I will go get him for you." Izuku Midoriya came to the front door and greeted his friend. Aizawa explained his plans for the day to Midoriya. Izuku really liked the sound of this. He had not spent any time with Aizawa in months. So Midoriya agreed, and the two boys left Midoriya's apartment together. The two were walking along the street when Aizawa grabbed Izuku's shoulder. Aizawa yanked him into an empty alleyway. Aizawa then used all his strength to pin Midoriya to the alley wall. The dark-haired boy glared at Izuku and asked, "How did you score so highly on the entrance exam?" This sudden display of ultra-seriousness from Aizawa caused Izuku to freak out and panic a little. "I guess I just got lucky. Plus my training with All Might really helped me." Izuku was visibly sweating. The green-haired boy's eyes were bugging out. Aizawa knew that his friend was hiding something. "Look, with the skills that you have, you should have gotten closer to the bottom of the scores. But even with 10 years of training, you could not have tied for first. The test just was not designed for individuals like us to shine." "So, what is going on, Izuku?" Midoriya knew that Aizawa was worried and serious about wanting answers. Those were the only times that he was only called Midoriya by his first name. Midoriya was torn. He had promised All Might that he would not share his secret with anyone. The problem was, Aizawa was Midoriya's closest friend. Forget friend, he was more like a brother. And seeing the pain and worry on his brother's face was too much for Midoriya. "Okay, Shouta, I will tell you what is going on. But we can't talk about it here." Aizawa was shocked by the serious look on Midoriya's face. "Okay, we can go to my house. My parents aren't home." "That will work." The boys walked quietly back to Aizawa's place. The whole time Aizawa was wondering what information could Midoriya have that could cause him to be so serious. This thought troubled Aizawa. The boys arrived at Aizawa's house. As he said, his parents were nowhere to be seen. The boys seated themselves in the living room. It felt like the air itself weighed 1,000 pounds as Midoriya gathered his thoughts. "Okay, Aizawa. What I am about to tell you is going to sound impossible, but just hear me out." "Okay, let's hear it." Midoriya then laid the whole secret out in front of Aizawa. How All Might's quirk was called One for All, and he could transfer it to someone else. How All Might decided to give him the quirk after the sludge villain attacked. Then how he spent the months before the entrance exam training to inherit the quirk. As Midoriya talked, Aizawa sat there in silence. Everything that Midoriya was telling him sounded irrational, like the wish of a desperate fanboy. But Aizawa knew that Midoriya was a hopeless hero fanboy. But he was not the kind of person to go around making up wild and outlandish stories. Also, Midoriya had always been straight with Aizawa, just like the dark-haired boy had been with Midoriya. Aizawa knew his friend would not be telling him this if it was not true. After a long silence, Aizawa spoke. The dark-haired boy said in a flat voice, "Midoriya, you should not have told me this." This answer shocked Midoriya. It took Midoriya several minutes to get over his shock. The green-haired boy then said, "I know that. I promised All Might that I would not tell a soul. But the thing is, Aizawa, you have been like a brother to me. I know in my heart that if I needed help, that you would do everything in your power to help me out. So, if there is one person that I can trust with this secret, it is you, Shouta Aizawa." Tears streamed down Midoriya's face as he uttered those words. Aizawa had to use all his willpower not to follow suit. Aizawa remained silent for a few moments. He thought over everything that Midoriya had told him. He then said to Midoriya, "I will keep your secret, Izuku. If this information became public knowledge, it would be bad for everyone. However, you should tell All Might that you told me. After all, it is his secret too. He should know who is in on it." "All right, I will, Aizawa. I was supposed to meet him later today. Thank you for not calling me crazy, my friend." Midoriya let out a huge sigh of relief after saying his piece. Aizawa responded to this with his usual frankness. "I won't lie. Everything you said has my head spinning. It flies in the face of how we think quirks work. But you were right when you said that I would do anything I could for you, Midoriya. I see you as a brother too. Let's get stronger together." Tears were now exiting Midoriya's eyes in waves. After he had calmed down a little, he said, "Okay, let's do it." Aizawa then asked Midoriya how far he had come in using One for All. Aizawa needed to know this information for his own sake. Midoriya then responded by saying that it would be easier to show him. The two boys went to Aizawa's training room. Midoriya then quickly stretched his body. He then took a pose, and his body became taut. Midoriya then zipped across the room at incredible speed. One for All is powerful. For now, I can only use about 10% of its power. But I can spread that power throughout my body. That increases my overall power. I call this full cowling. This is the main way that I scored so highly on the entrance exam. Oh, by the way, I should thank you, Aizawa. If not for your physical training over the years, I would not have gotten this far with the power. All Might told me that if my body had not been in such good shape already, then it would not have been able to pass the quirk to me so soon. Because of that, I was able to get used to the quirk." Aizawa was stunned at this sight. Hearing about All Might's power was one thing, but seeing it was another. Midoriya was a capable enough individual before. Now that he had a quirk like this, he was going to be a real monster. Aizawa knew that he had to redouble his own efforts to keep up with his friend. A week flew by as both Aizawa and Midoriya found themselves outside of the main gate to UA. To say that both boys were nervous would be the understatement of the year. The boys walked down the hallways. The doors and the ceilings seemed to be made to accommodate giants. These facts did not take away from the fear that the boys felt inside. Aizawa wore his usually impassive sleepy glare on his face. This hid the uneasy feelings he was having. Midoriya, though, was nowhere near as good at hiding his feelings. The green-haired boy was in a full-on ramble as they walked toward their homeroom. Both boys were suddenly jarred from their thoughts when they saw the door marked with a huge one across the wood. The boys stood in front of the door. They were both a little nervous to enter. "Don't worry, I am sure everyone here is nice." Aizawa wondered if Midoriya was saying to reassure him or making a prayer out loud, hoping it would come true. Aizawa took a deep breath and said, "Well, the only way we are going to know is if we open the door and go in." With that line, Aizawa grabbed the door handle and slid the door open. Thank you all for indulging yourselves in the story thus far. Hope you enjoyed it. Now there are a few more things that I'd like to go over before the video ends. Firstly, we've got a second channel called Anime Deep Dive. Anime Deep Dive goes deep into the facts and lore of a wide variety of anime. It's sure to expand your weeb knowledge for all kinds of series guaranteed. On top of that, we have a third channel called We The Celestials Naruto What Ifs. It's what we do on this channel already, but in the vast world and lore of Naruto. Go check it out if you're in the mood for some jutsu action. I'd like to let you all know on behalf of We The Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description below. If you're perhaps interested in what we do here at WTC, then I would like to extend out an invitation to join the team. The only caveat being we only accept members 16 and older to join our crew. You can find us on our Discord, which you can locate in the description below. Our Discord is an all-around fantastic place to be, whether you're a fan or looking to join our band of misfits. All you gotta do is hit up the recruitment server and sign up for whichever category of work that fulfills your interest. We're always looking for members to join us. Well, that's it from us for today's video. So thank you all for watching and have a great day.